Culture theory. Cultural materialism. Cultural materialism by Marvin Harris. This is really a very interesting theory. This is a very simple theory. It states that infrastructure consisting of material realities, mold the other aspects of the culture, that is the structure and superstructure. Infrastructure influences structure and superstructure. This is the crux. I'll just brief you what all these things are. So cultural materialism, right, apart from cultural materialism, it also includes cultural evolution and cultural ecology. Cultural ecology. So this theory states that every society, for every single society on the earth, the prime duty is extraction of energy from the environment. Extraction of energy from the environment. In every single environment, right, there will be some resources which allows population to survive, which allows not just human beings, even other animals to survive. So if there is a given environment, this environment has its own potentials and the resources are finite. Resources are there in the environment. The population which lives here, right, the population should be capable of extracting energy from the resources. At the same time, even how much pollution the population can produce, or how much pollution this environment can withstand. That is also there. So cultural materialism, right, it encompasses the school of cultural ecology. So the cultural materialism, it states very clear, it's very simple, the theory is. This states that infrastructure consisting of material realities like technology, economics, demography, that is population. This influences the other aspect of the society, that is structure and the superstructure. So infrastructure containing the material realities like technical, economic and demographic factors influences the two other aspects of the society, that is structure and superstructure. So now let us discuss that what this infrastructure is. Okay. So every environment, as I told you, every environment has its own resources. There are even few school of thought which is called as environmental determinism. It says that environment determines the human course of action. We are just slave in the environment. We cannot do anything of ourselves. We can only do what the environment permits us. At the same time, there is another school of thought which says that environment provides us possibility. There are a number of possibilities in the given environment, and it depends upon your technological sophistication. If you are technologically so sophisticated, you can think about extracting the resources in a greater way to make a greater living. So every society, right, extracts energy from the environment. At the same time, it also produces some pollution, and these are meant to be within the constraints. So if we create too much of pollution, then the environment cannot withstand the pollution, and that may affect the human living. Society will disintegrate. And if there are no energy, there are no resources to extract energy, once again, that will affect the society. Fine. So, infrastructure, according to Mervyn Harris, he divides infrastructure into two. You can just take down these flow charts. Infrastructure, controlling structure, and superstructure. In this particular topic, right, we need to, even if there is a question in your examination, you need to write number of small flow charts like this. Okay, the first important flow chart is infrastructure, influencing structure and superstructure. Now next let us discuss what is this infrastructure. Infrastructure, Harris, right, he divides infrastructure into two. Number one, modes of production. And number two, modes of reproduction. This is demographic factors. These are demographic factors. So modes of production, right, it includes all the technical and social process involved in production. All the technical and social process involved in production. If they are technologically so sophisticated, they'll be in a position to produce a lot. Even now, in our country, right, we faced a crisis. After independence, British, they just left the country. Our policymakers, right, they had number of issues to deal with. The extreme poverty in our country, threat from our neighbors, economic rebuilding of the country. And in this process, they failed to take a note on a number of demographic issues. For example, the population was growing at a very alarming rate. It was doubling very easily. By around 1965, we started facing food crisis. See, there was no increase in the area under cultivation. In fact, we are losing few areas under cultivation to rapid expansion of settlements due to urbanization, due to industrialization. We are losing the land, But in the same set of land around 1947, when our population was just around some 30 crores, in a matter of 20 years, right, it became almost 50 crore. So with the same amount of land, we need to extract the energy for a huge population now. We were not capable of doing it because a rice crop in a field, right, it will stand for close to around 6 months. After 6 months standing in the field, in an acre, they will produce around 700 to 800 kg of rice or wheat per acre for 6 months. There is no scope for to increase the area under cultivation. Initially, we tried to increase irrigation so that we can increase the number of cropping days. But still we couldn't do anything. So this was the time when Green Revolution, it played a major role in improving our infrastructure. Improving our infrastructure. We introduced a Mexican wheat and we selectively bred it with our local varieties, and we produced a very famous varieties called as Kalyan Sona and Sonalika. There were even few legends which say that when M.S. Swaminathan, the architect of Green Revolution in India, he visited IRRI, IRRI, International Rice Research Institute in Philippines, Manila, to seek some germplasm. By the time they had developed a number of short duration, it is early maturing and high yielding varieties. Here this crop will not be there in the field for 6 months. It can mature in a matter of 3.5 to 4 months. And the yield will be some 4 to 5 times more than what we are getting here. But they were so reluctant to give him the germplasms. Many even say that M.S. Swaminathan, while he was walking there in the field, he managed to collect some food grains in his hand and he kept that in his coat pocket. With that, when he came here, the then agriculture minister, Mr. Sorry, I couldn't recollect his name, a great politician. He even served as governor of Maharashtra before his death. Subramaniam, yeah, the C. Subramaniam. He was then the agriculture minister. He just raised these crops in his MP quarters. In his quarters in Delhi, right, there itself they raised the crop. Let us see it here, how it grows. That was the commitment. So now with the same amount of land, we also introduced seed, water, fertilizer package along with the improved varieties. Now the crop will be there for only 3.5 months. So earlier when the farmers used to grow only one crop in a year, now they can go for 2 or 3 crops in a year. So there was an improvement in the infrastructure using which, right, we managed to improve our production capabilities and we managed to survive. Now we are producing surplus food grains. And the condition becomes so pathetic when Indira Gandhi went to United States begging for the entire Indians. Okay, fine. So, modes of production. This includes all the technological and the social process which we use to draw energy from the raw materials, energy from the environment. Then the demographic factors, right? This includes all the population factors. This includes birth control, infanticide, all the checks which we use in population control. All these things are included in the demographic factor, that is modes of reproduction. It is not just the human beings, even animals, right? They are capable of controlling the population depending upon the availability of the resources. You might have seen a dog. Suppose if it gives birth to 6 puppies, and out of 6 puppies, only 1 is male and remaining 5 are female. The dog, what it will do, it itself, right, will kill and eat away 2 or 3 female babies. Tigers used to do this. When tigers, right, when they give birth to young cubs, if most of the cubs are female cubs, they'll kill away 2 or 3 female cubs. So that it's the female who are giving birth to babies, right? If you have a control over the females, these animals can have a check over the increase in population, so that they will not starve with the limited available resources. So like that, even human beings do it. Human beings do birth control. Or sometimes if they are not able to control the birth, they even go for female infanticide to have a check over the population. So these factors, right, are included in the modes of reproduction. Modes of reproduction. Okay. So now we can make one more small flow chart here. Infrastructure, modes of production, and number 2, modes of reproduction, which you can group it as demographic factors. Demographic factors. Okay. So next is the structure. We have discussed earlier what we mean by structure. By structure, right, it means an orderly arrangement of the components, so that each and every component will have its own function and it performs its own functions and duties, and the function becomes meaningful. So earlier I have told you an example of a structure. Suppose if you take a house, a home, a house. So what are the things you can see? There will be one ceiling, correct? There will be one main entry door, a number of small doors. There will be a floor. There will be walls. There will be windows. These all are the components of your house. So independently, right, we cannot form a structure. Only when we arrange this into components, keep the roof over, floor in the bottom, the 4 walls on 4 sides, okay, then the door here and the window here, then only we get a structure. And only when we get a structure, right, every component will have its function. The roof will protect you from rain and sunlight. The door will allow you passage. The windows will provide you ventilation. And the walls here will protect you, protect your belongings. Will protect your belongings. So this is a structure. Like that, even our human society, right, have a structure where people are arranged in a particular order, so that every person will be assigned a particular duty and function and responsibilities. We get a social structure. So family is a simplest unit of a social structure. Even here, people are arranged into different components, and everybody has their own roles and responsibilities, own function and own duty. Father being the head of the family, it is his duty. He is placed in a position as a father. He is having a duty. He need to uh, earn lot of money. Mother need to take him. She can earn. At the same time, she need to take care of the family. Correct? Okay. So structure, right, according to Harris, he divides structure into two types. One is political economy. He divides into two. Number one, political economy, and number two, domestic economy. Political economy and the domestic economy. So by political economy, right, it consists of groups and organizations that performs the regulation of production, exchange, consumption, law and order, etc. So that is political organization. So sorry, political economy. So political economy, right, it controls production. It controls the distribution of commodities. So once when the commodities are produced, it needs to be distributed among all the members of the society for consumption. So there is an orderly structural arrangement here. Maybe if there is a king, that king, right, he may assign some revenue officials. These revenue officials will further assign some lawyer people in order to take care of collection of revenue, or they'll go and procure the produce produced by the farmers. It will move to the allocative center from where things can be redistributed. So how much tax these people are going to pay? So we have a political structure, it's called a political economy. Political economy. Then there is the domestic economy. This domestic economy, right, it includes family structure, friendship network, etc. So apart from domestic economy, political economy is very, very important, because even political economy has a control over professional and labor organization. This is something very important, because there is a need for the allocation of labor. Who is going to do which work? Agriculture means who is going to plow, who is going to transplant, who is going to harvest, who is going to collect the produce from the farmers, who is going to move it or transport it to a central authority, who is going to redistribute this. All these are very, very important in political economy. And so there is a structural arrangement for this. So structure, according to Mervyn Harris, right, it includes both political economy and domestic economy. He classifies this into political and domestic economy. Next is infrastructure, sorry, superstructure. By superstructure, right, one should not just think about cosmology, only about religion, or only about gods and myths. Superstructure, right, it includes many aspects of human life. It also includes the aesthetic pleasure which we get out of living as a human being. And that is something very important. As we know that even in our Hindu myth speaks about Kama. Purushartha, right, speaks about Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Here, Kama is not just indulging in sexual pleasure. Here, Kama includes Navarasa. It includes all the aesthetic aspects of a human life. It includes food, tasty food, music, painting, dance, etc. All the aesthetic aspects, all the aspects from which, right, human beings have some pleasure. It is not just only bodily pleasure. So similarly, right, even from myth, even from our beliefs, even from our rituals, right, it gives a sense of satisfaction. So by superstructure, Harris includes all these aspects. So here, he divides superstructure into two. Number one, behavioral superstructure, and then mental superstructure. Behavioral superstructure and mental superstructure. By behavioral superstructure, he includes art, music, sports, games, hobbies, etc. Think about the hobbies, right? I'll tell you one thing. It's something very, very important in your examination. When you So before the main examination, you will be filling one DAF, detailed application form, where there will be few columns meant for you to fill. This includes columns like extracurricular activities during your school and college days, hobbies. These are the things, right, one need to be very clear. If you mention something as a hobby here, you need to have some good idea about what these hobbies are. Earlier, right, for this examination, people used to select some hobbies and they used to prepare themselves. Okay, I'm going to select bird watching as my hobby. So what are all the thing which I can read? Few people, without even going out, venturing out to see a single bird, they'll sit in the room and they'll prepare everything. Sit in their home and they'll prepare everything about their hobbies. This is one area where you need to be very, very clear. Do not leave it blank. So we still have time. There are a number of things, right, which you can, which you will be doing it as a hobby, but you may not know, is this a hobby? Is this a hobby? Somebody, right, have the habit of seeing Google Maps. They'll be there from Mumbai. They'll just see, they'll just in the map, right, in the Google map, they'll just go and look how the Western Ghats are, how the Himalayas are. Is there any road leading to this side? Even this is a hobby. People ask what they used to do when they read newspaper. Some important things which they feel as very important newspaper, right? Which they cannot read it in a day. They'll cut it and they will put it in some box. On one fine day when they get time, right, they can reopen that and they will sit and read that. Even this is a hobby. Do not simply mention as reading books. Once, right, I still remember during one mock interview, 1%, right, he had mentioned reading books as hobby. I asked him, yeah, good, it's a nice hobby, right? Reading books as a hobby. I asked him, then tell me what exactly you read. What exactly you read in books? What type of books you read? He said, sir, I read love stories. I said, you should not say love stories, man. You should say romantic fiction. You read romantic fiction. Okay, good. You read about romantic fiction, right? Then do you know about E.L. James? I asked a few books like, have you read the Notebook? He was just blinking. Then I asked him, what do you read? Sir, I read some local authors only. That guy, he was from Karnataka, and I asked him, okay, local author, right? There is one very famous author from Bengaluru who writes a lot of romantic fiction. Preeti Shana is there. Do you have idea about her? She wrote really from very fantastic books, like the one I remember, Secret Wish List. But he was simply blinking. See, then I asked him, what are the books you read at least? Then he managed to think and he told me some two books which are not so familiar. See, once when you mention something as your hobby, at least do some work to have some thorough knowledge about that. One person, he mentioned cooking as his hobby. In a mock interview, we asked him, oh, cooking as your hobby, right? Fantastic, that is a good hobby. So what are the things you cook? He thought for a while. He said, sir, I make tomato chutney. I thought of asking, as he's from South, I thought of asking a number of questions like, so what is the difference between Tanjore dishes and the Karaikudi dishes? These two are very famous in Tia. The main difference is in Karaikudi dishes, right? You might have seen number of Karaikudi restaurant. In Karaikudi, they add black pepper as the important spice, but in Tanjore food, right, they add red chili as the spice. That is the major difference. I thought of going to that level, but this guy, right, in the first ball itself, clean bowled. Here, tomato chutney. I got so irritated asking, see, it's you who have mentioned your hobby as cooking. If you do not do that, at least try to know or try to think what are the things they can ask about this hobby. If you have mentioned something in your DIF, and if you say, I do not know that, we cannot expect a good marks. So make it sure that you do a thorough work about each and every word in your DIF. And hobby is one column which is very, very important. Let's come back to our topic. So by behavioral superstructure, Harry speaks about music, sports, games, hobbies, art, paintings, etc. Even some rituals he adds here. And by mental superstructure, he includes belief, philosophy, religion, beliefs, values, customs, etc. etc. And finally, he says that it is the infrastructure which consists of the material realities. It is the infrastructure which influences the other aspect, structure and superstructure. So what we are producing, how we are producing, and how much population we have, and what are the factors which influences the population. Soon we'll be discussing the demographic theories, where we'll discuss about Malthusian theory of population. So the Malthusian theory, right, it states that population grows at a geometric rate but the means for subsistence grows only in an arithmetic rate, only at a slow rate. So the fast growth in population absorbs all the economic benefits. So this fast growth in population need to be checked, and if it is not checked, that will eat away all the economic benefits, all your hard works. And according to Robert Thomas Malthus, right, there are two ways that we'll discuss shortly. Maybe in another 2 or 3 lectures, we'll start the demographic theories. Rajagopalachari, CR, history might have read about him, right? C. Rajagopalachari was considered to be a very wise man, a very intelligent person during the national movement. Gandhiji's son got married to Rajaji's daughter. There was a time when everyone was believing that Rajaji, Rajagopalachari, is going to become the successor of Mahatma Gandhiji. But Gandhiji made a great choice by declaring, my successor is not Rajagopalachari. He declares in like this only. He first mentions about C. Rajagopalachari. My successor is not Rajagopalachari, but it is Jawaharlal Nehru. This Rajagopalachari, right, later he became the first chief minister of the independent India, and he introduced really some very nonsense policies actually. That's why he became least popular, and hardly in the entire state of Tamil Nadu we can see a single statue meant for Rajagopalachari. He introduced the so-called Kula Kalvi Murai, that means education based on the caste-based occupation. See, it was a big surprise for everyone. What is this? It is from this, right, we are moving out. We have created a democracy, a democratic pattern of society, and we have socialism as our founding principle. Is a basic philosophy in our constitution. This structurally, see, socialism in India is not collectivism, but we aim to create a socialistic pattern of society. That means we need to abolish all types of inequality. But this guy, right, he was speaking about again caste-based education. Anyway, he wrote one book, Rajagopalachari, when he had free time, right? A Tamil version of Mahabharata. In that he takes some clue from the Malthusian theory, and he states that the Bhuma Devi, Mother Earth, goes to heaven to meet Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, saying that population in the earth is multiplying manifold, and I am not able to bear the burden. The three, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, they had a small discussion. And after the discussion, they said, Bhuma Devi, please go back to Mother Earth. Mother Devi, please go back to Earth. Soon there will be a big war. And because of the war, there will be a large scale bloodshed and death. Do not worry, your burden will become minimum soon. So what I meant to say is the importance of population and population control and inclusion of this in infrastructure. So remember, Melvin Harris, right, he includes demographic factors along with other technological factors which shapes the other aspect of the society, other aspects of culture like structure and superstructure. Got it? This is cultural materialism. So do not remember this important thing. Infrastructure consisting of material realities influences the other aspects of the society or other aspects of the culture like the structure and the superstructure. In the notes which I have given, right, please try to avoid the first paragraph. That's a bit boring actually. You can start straight away from the second paragraph. So cultural materialism promotes the idea that infrastructure consisting of material realities such as technological, economic, and reproductive. Please, please, please do not forget the inclusion of reproductive factors in infrastructure, which molds and influences the other two aspects of the culture, that is structure and superstructure, and how he classifies structure into political economy and domestic economy, and what is superstructure and how he divides superstructure into two: behavioral superstructure and mental superstructure. I hope you are very, very comfortable in this theory, cultural materialism by Mervyn Harris, and I hope you will not make any, this is something very, very important, and I am giving you also a very good notes for this. Keep in mind, this particular theory is not discussed in length in any books. I took a lot of pain to make this particular content. And suppose if they ask you in your examination, if any question comes about this topic, cultural materialism, please do not miss this, because I will tell you, 1 in a 10 can only think about answering this. And by answering this question, you send a very strong signal that you are a hardworking person, you are different from others. Okay, and make it sure while writing this, you can make at least 3 or 4 important flowcharts. The first important flowchart is infrastructure, controlling structure and superstructure. Then about infrastructure you can make 1. About structure you can make one small flowchart. About superstructure you can make one flowchart. And these are very, very, very important, because the very first look itself, right, your examiner will be looking into all the important things. Yes, every single content is there in the picture itself. So there is no need for me to read this entire content to understand what is written there. So initially itself you are giving a comfort to your examiner. So these are the ways, right, by which you can give comfort to him, and you can expect him to award you very good marks. Very good marks. And always keep this in mind. This is a competitive exam where you need to outperform others. And always try to focus on tough topics in your syllabus, because everyone will not be in a position to read the hard content, the content which are very tough. If it is tough, if you identify a particular topic as something very tough, there lies the advantage in this examination. Keep that in mind. So prepare well. In the next lecture, let us discuss 2 more the remaining culture theories. Until then, thank you. Have a great day.